Hey everybody, what's going on? Juan here, and for this video, I want to talk to you about Recovery Month. For those who don't know, Recovery Month is a month where we celebrate the people in recovery from mental health challenges from substance use, aka addiction, and we try to raise awareness about the importance that it is to recognize that people need to seek out treatment. So I am a person in long-term recovery from mental health challenges, and I want to tell you before going on about my story and how video games really helped me towards my path of recovery. If you have any suspicion about yourself or your loved ones, somebody that may be suffering from mental health challenges, please seek out a mental health professional, be it a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a therapist, anybody. It's really important that we raise awareness about how important it is and how serious we should be about mental illness. So in my case, I want to preface this by saying that I am a person that's been diagnosed with generalized anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, and depression. This is not O.C.D. Facebook edition. This is not a top 10. This is not just, hey, look at how clean and how organized things are. This is actually about the intrusive thoughts that the condition has. I suffer from depression to the point where I was socially isolated for many years. I became obese, weighing up to 275 pounds. I didn't even go to my 9th grade graduation. I arrived at my 12th grade graduation just minutes before we started to walk down the aisle. And up until my life in college, I really was not talking to anybody. So the only real source of communication or of interaction that I had was by watching either wrestling on the TV or, in this case, video games, particularly games from the PlayStation 1, because at that time, that was the console that people were really playing. I grew up playing the NES, but I didn't play much of that. I played the Super Nintendo, Clay Fighter, that traumatized me for life. Same thing with Zombies Ate My Neighbors. The PlayStation 1, and specifically these Squaresoft games, the Final Fantasy games, they did an excellent job of being able to really take me out of my house. I was not able to really do all much because I was a pretty violent person when I was a child. So the first thing that really comes to mind is music and video games. I want to thank Nobuo Uematsu. You have no idea how much you mean to me, and that music from the Final Fantasy games, those composed tracks that are masterful, really did an excellent job at being able to just soothe me, to really make me relax. I could feel like I was teleporting myself to another world. Even to this day, even when I'm driving, I'll put in a Final Fantasy soundtrack. The Bellam Garden from Final Fantasy VIII, the opening theme from Final Fantasy VII. It gets you pumped up, it gets you going, but there's a balance of everything. And Final Fantasy is just one example, but I believe that video game music is as important as almost any other component. I think that we've personally gotten a little bit too cinematic and strayed away from the basic nature of a lot of music in video games, but at least up until the PlayStation 2 era, I think that music was simple, excellent, and masterful. Another way the games were able to help me was by introducing to me all these awesome characters that were outrageous, that were silent, especially going back to that era, because those characters didn't really have voiceover up until, like PlayStation 1 or even late PS1. I was able to sort of become the character. I love the fact that Cloud Strife didn't have a voice, because then I would be actually trying to figure out how does he sound? Like, is he like this? What was he doing before? Okay, so he's a soldier, so is he like a grunty guy? Is he maybe a high-pitched guy? I don't know. I was able to insert myself into all of those stories, that even though on a personal level, I was deathly afraid of social interaction in any capacity, here I was trying to save the world, trying to save my friends, trying to start a conversation, and it really made me feel a lot better. The third way that video games really helped me has to do with how you actually used to acquire video games, especially while I was growing up. I think we take for granted way too much how accessible movies, video games, comics, everything is. You can just grab your phone and watch any of them. But I remember you would have to go to a Blockbuster, may you rest in peace, or Video Game Avenue, or even a local rental shop here to rent games. And you would have to take a look at the box art and actually engage in conversations with other people walking by. Hey, have you played this game? Even when you went up, to actually rent the game. The process of, oh, I rented this too. I thought it was pretty awesome. Hey, if you like this game, maybe you want to check this other one out. We have removed ourselves from the conversations that would happen before, because everything is so filtered now. You go to Netflix, and based on your watching experience, it'll recommend things for you, right? But back then, you had to look at the box art, you had to actually do word of mouth, which is still happening to this day, but not to the extent that it was back then. So those little details, those social interactions tremendously helped me open up and feel a little bit more comfortable about talking about video games and just getting to talk to people as a whole. The fourth way the video games have helped me is by actually learning the English language. So keep in mind, I am from Puerto Rico, so our primary language here is in Spanish. And I remember my brother, as I was growing up, he would play Quake, Quake 2. He would chat with friends in ICQ and all these other, ancient devices of communication through this thing called dial-up, where you would plug your telephone line onto the computer. It would make fancy sounds, and then boom, there were people from all over the world. So I didn't know a damn word in English. So I would just write gibberish nonstop. And eventually, through playing role-playing games, because they had a little bit more text-based games, all of these FMV games that were terrible now that I really think about them, but they were still enjoyable to play, they really helped me learn English. Sometimes my humor, I take it from bad video game characters. So if you've played Final Fantasy VIII as an example, I think you get where I get my personality from. The little jokes, the culture, actually. A lot of times I feel like I am more in line with culture from other places than Puerto Rico, and that's because I played a lot of games that were developed by Japanese companies, or that they were about other parts of the world. So then it was all a matter of bringing it back to Puerto Rico and being able to communicate, and I extended that later by watching a lot of anime. And seriously, video games, if it weren't for them, I don't know if I would be able to do this video in English. Tendría que hablar español y entonces no sabría comunicarme con ustedes porque realmente estaría perdido. And the final, fifth, and definitely most important way that video games have helped me battle mental health challenges has to do with them being able to really just distract me from the negative thoughts. Going back a little bit to the topic of depression and obsessive compulsive disorder, as a child, I did attempt against my life on 3 different occasions. This is a very deep, very convoluted, very complex condition that has all sorts of different diagnoses, all sorts of different possibilities and intrusive thoughts, because they are thoughts that don't make any sense to you. So say you were liking this video, but then a little part of your brain was telling you, hey, punch that person in the face, but then you're telling yourself, that doesn't make any sense, I like this guy. That is just a tiny sample of what obsessive compulsive disorder is. But because the intrusive thoughts were so heavy, the fact that I was able to play these games, and I'm realizing it now, just how much they helped me in not having to focus on those intrusive thoughts. Like, why focus on that when I got to level up? I got to finish this game. I got to get better at SOCOM 2 on the PlayStation 2. I got to be the clan leader. I got to be all of these different things. I got no time for these stupid thoughts in my head. And that's exactly what they were. They were these stupid, intrusive thoughts that the games were able to sort of replace the badness with the goodness. And the real reason that I love talking about video games so vividly, and I'm a proud video gamer, is that when you talk about this, especially when it comes to mental health, people say games lead to violence, lead to all of these things. Each individual human being is just that, individual. Our minds are never the same. It's not a copy paste. In my case, if it weren't for video games, I honestly don't think I would still be here today. I don't think I would be able to have the relationship that I have with everybody around me if it were not for video games. Thanks to video games, I know more about culture. I have learned a second language. I can appreciate different things in life. You become more stimulated overall about wanting to learn different things. And especially now, the video games are so accessible. You have Google. You have so much technology that can benefit you in a negative way. In a positive way, it's your job and mine to really be able to sort of, say shoo, wipe off the haters or stay away from the things that damage us, and then really bringing together all the things that make you smile, make you have a pretty good time, and become a bigger part of an awesome community. So these are just 5 ways that video games have helped me towards my path of recovery. I am a proud gamer to this day, be it console, PC, handheld, I don't care. I just love having a good time. And once again, Recovery Month happens September in each year. So I advise you, share this video for those that don't really care about video games or think that video games are stupid. Find something online that can inspire those people so we can reduce that stigma surrounded by video games and surrounded by mental health challenges. And you and I together can help make this a better community. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. Maybe you can relate. I know a lot of people online are very scared about coming out with their stories because, well, you're exposed out to the world, but at some point, somebody has to speak up and say, hey, I am a person in long-term recovery from mental health challenges and proud of it. So if you like this video, definitely like and share if you have any suggestions for things you would like me to do, or if you want me to go deeper into this topic. I personally have no problem whatsoever talking about the other things that have helped me in my path of recovery. So thank you for watching, and until next time, the journey definitely continues right here on Epic JC.